Hi, welcome to this video, and today's video is going to be about comparison. So we are going to talk about the habit of comparison. So if you're somebody who believes that I have the habit of comparison, or I end up comparing myself mentally to a lot of people in day-to-day life, and it definitely doesn't help me because it takes away the confidence from me, or it makes me feel that why am I not good enough, or why am I not like them, they are doing so better, and we both come from the same background, but they are doing so much better, and why I'm still here. So if this happens with you, if you feel that comparison comes very naturally to you, very easily to you, then this video is going to help you, because by the end we are going to talk about the things that you must know about comparison, so that you can actually move towards how to get out of this tendency, or how to not indulge in comparison so easily. And even if you do compare yourself with others, because understand that when we are talking about resolution, or when we are talking about stepping out of a tendency, it is not that you reach a stage where comparison just doesn't happen to you, because we don't believe in reaching a particular destination when it comes to healing, or when it comes to, in fact, working on a tendency also. So even after you have watched this video completely, or even when you have worked on a tendency of comparison, see, comparison would still come, even if it comes to me also today, because I think comparison is something that as human beings we slip into it. It happens. But the thing is, what do you do after that? Are you able to catch yourself when you are into that loop of comparing yourself with somebody? Or do you end up buying into that comparison thing that happens? Do you end up believing into the conclusion that your comparison makes you believe into? Because right now what is happening, when you compare yourself with somebody else, the conclusion that you draw is that I am not good enough, या फिर I am not enough, या फिर मैं ही कुछ गलत कर रही हूँ, that I am not where they are, or where how well they are doing, I am not able to do that well, because there's something wrong with me, the problem is in me, I lack something in me. So right now we are believing into these conclusions, and hence it affects our confidence, it affects how much we believe in ourselves, it basically affects our relationship with ourselves, right? But when when we are going to work on this tendency, or suppose you have worked on your this habit of comparing yourself with others, even after that you will slip into comparison, once in a while, but then you would be able to catch yourself, because you will be even more self-aware. You will know that, okay, you will know a lot more about this habit, or this tendency of comparison, and you will be able to bring yourself out of that comparison thing. So that is the resolution we are going to talk about, and that is what we aim to be. So we are not aiming at reaching a perfect destination that exists, because nothing like that exists. And it is important to know, because when you expect something which is kind of perfect, or something that is actually not possible, you are going to feel disappointed in yourself, and I think you are going to leave in between that मुझसे तो नहीं हो रहा है, when that is not reality. Comparison happens to everybody, it slips in, it's a natural thing. So let's talk about it further. So first is, let's understand how does it impact you first. So see, comparison is directly related to your self-esteem. So every time you compare yourself with others, you are feeding your low self-esteem even further. And I want you to notice that, okay, so every time you compare yourself with somebody, or I want you to recall the last time you compared yourself with somebody, it could be on social media also. How did you feel after or after you indulged in that comparison conversation with your own self? You definitely felt that I'm not where I should be, or I'm not doing what I should have been doing, or I'm not there yet. And how does that make you feel? You feel underconfident in your own self. You lose that, you lose the you lose confidence, you lose power in your own self. So, and what is that? It is nothing but your unhealthy self-esteem. So this comparison feeds your unhealthy low self-esteem, makes you even believe, takes away the belief from your own self. And so this is the major I think outcome of comparison. Now I've just here termed it as unhealthy self-esteem, but if we go into unhealthy self-esteem, it's going to be it's going to branch into a lot of very small little details, which you would which you actually get to feel which you actually get to feel in your daily life with, I think, very much often. So next is, let's talk about why do we compare, because when we are talking about comparison, you must know I think in and out of it. Only then you can move towards getting out of this tendency, or working on this habit of yours. So first, let's understand, why do you compare? So first thing, as I said, I think how I like to see it as that comparison is a natural thing, that it happens to everybody. at some level, at different intensity, and that is the difference. Because right now what we're talking about the stage when we have a habit of comparison, when it comes very easily and naturally to us. So here the intensity is very much, and the effect is also a lot. How much, it's the effect that it's causing us is very harmful, and the intensity is also a lot. So first is that comparison. I think it's a very natural thing. People who you compare yourself to, even they are comparing themselves to somebody. There are times when, even I compare myself to other people. So everybody is comparing themselves to somebody else. The difference is about intensity. How often do you compare yourself with others, and what do you do after you slip into that comparison thing? So that is the difference. Right now, when we are not aware of our comparison tendency, that it's untrue, that it's not something that I have to buy into, I have to believe into, we end up buying into. But once you become aware of all these things about comparison, you will be able to not believe into it and get yourself out of it very much easily. So first is, it's a natural thing, so understand it. But and why it is a natural thing? Because see, we are supposed to compare ourselves with others from a space of being inspired, so that we can look at others and feel inspired that, okay, if this person can do this, or if this is possible for them, it's possible for me too. But not from a place of very not from a place of very toxicity, where you end up criticizing yourself, where you end up feeling like that if they are doing it and if I'm not doing it, then I lack something. So when I say that comparison is a natural thing, that it happens to us naturally, because so this is not the reason, but it came from a space of being inspired, so that you can feel inspired too, and then you can work towards it. But not from a place where you are sitting at a place and then again judging yourself, criticizing yourself, because that doesn't help anybody. So this is the first reason why do we compare, why do we have a tendency. Second thing is that it becomes a habit, that we start learning, we learn comparison as a habit, and then we keep diving into it deeper without understanding, without learning how to deal with when if we have a habit of comparison, how do I deal with it. The second reason is that you learn it as a habit, or you learn it growing up. So how does this exactly happen? How does one learn comparing themselves to other? It definitely comes up from your childhood. Suppose there are two people, right? And so one of them grew up to not really have, suppose one of them grew up with parents who did not usually compare the child with other. So this child never faced any unhealthy comparison. So they never felt that they were compared to others, and then their worth was attacked, their self-worth was attacked, that you are not worthy enough. So when this child grows up, they will only face the kind of comparison which is kind of natural, which means that they will end up only slipping into the kind of comparison which is much less intense, and the after effects are not very harmful, but rather they would end up comparing themselves with others, but come from a place of being inspired, or the effect would be very little, even if they're comparing themselves with others. But suppose this second person, they grow up with maybe a parents or a guardian who actually ended up comparing themselves to other people in a very unhealthy manner. So which means that they ended up comparing their child with others, and in regard to their self-worth, that you are not good enough, or you could not do it because you are not capable enough, or you are not lovable enough. So this child would grow up to have an inner voice which is similar to that parent's voice. And what did that parent do most of the time? Compare that child to other people in regard of their self-worth, or how much capable they are, or how much do they deserve, or their natural ability. So this child will grow up with an inner voice which has learned how to compare in an unhealthy manner. So this child would grow up to have this habit of comparison. It would come very naturally to them, because for them it is the way of living. For them, that is something that is the only way they know to live. And hence, this is the case we are talking about, because here this child would also grow up to have an unhealthy self-esteem. So it is very important that this child learns a lot about comparison. This person must know that, okay, what comparison is and how they can actually work on this habit of comparison, because it is definitely affecting their unhealthy self-esteem, and it is going to take them even deeper into this. So unless they choose to work on this, they are going to keep going even deeper into it. With every comparison, with every thought that comes in, or every mental comparison that they do, they are going to feel even more small in themselves, even worse in their own body. So it's important that this person knows about it. And when this person knows about everything about comparison, and they're working on the tendency, they're becoming self-aware, and they're learning, okay, what do I do when I enter into or I slip into a comparison, this child would, it's not that this child would just stop comparing themselves to others, or the comparison would never come to them. No, they would still kind of slip into comparison, but then they would be able to catch themselves in between. Suppose they get into a comparison, slip into a comparison, and they start that loop starts happening, that conversation starts coming in, that okay, this person is doing this, and I could have been there. They will be able to catch themselves there, because now they would be self-aware, they would know their tendency, they would know where they are coming from, they would have understanding and compassion for their own selves. So they would be able to bring themselves out of that comparison loop. So that is the difference. We are not going to become a person who never compares themselves to anybody else, because nobody is there yet, trust me. And that is not the destination. We are not seeking to be perfect, because there's nothing as perfect. So let's be clear on that. So this was why do we compare. First is it's a natural instinct. Second is it's a learned thing. And there's a difference. The difference is in regard of intensity and the after effects. Okay, so let's come to the resolution part. So when it comes to working upon this tendency or habit of comparison, here are a few things that I want you to know, which will actually help you get out of this or work on your habit of comparing yourself to other people. First thing is that I want you to know that comparison is actually a very invalid thing. And I think this is an insight that that came to me very recently, and I truly believe into it, because see, comparison can actually only happen between two entities or two individuals when all other parameters of their life or all other parameters attached to them are equal. See, in mathematics we could only compare a kg with kg, right? You can never compare a meter with a kg. That's not valid. That comparison just cannot happen in that case. And when I look at it that way, it helps me understand that comparison is actually an invalid thing. Yeah, so I was saying that similarly, when it comes to you comparing yourself with somebody else, you cannot compare with others, because and it is not valid. So the conclusion that you come to, that I am not good enough, the self-deprecating conclusion or verdict that you draw out of a comparison, it's not valid, it's impractical, because all the parameters that are attached with you, parameters like your background, where do you come from, your story, your past, your thoughts, your beliefs, and these parameters, the same parameters which belong to the other person, you don't know about it. They are not same, definitely not same. I think these parameters are never going to be same for any two individuals. So comparison is invalid. And I think that statement that we say that I think we all are unique, and all we all have a different question paper. Life is like an exam, and all of those things might sound cliche, but that's true. This life for each of us, it's different, right? So the obstacles that we have to overcome, or the lessons that we are here to learn, for each one of us is going to be different. So if you are here comparing yourself to somebody you are only watching on social media, it's an invalid thing, right? You cannot do it. It doesn't mean anything actually. Yeah, you can do it to fuel your unhealthy self-esteem even further, to stay stuck in that zone of unhealthy self-esteem, but it's not actually a valid thing. Now, and I think this insight actually helps you understand that even though I have a habit of indulging into comparison, it is not a valid thing. The conclusion that I'm drawing, it's not very practical. I'm coming from an emotional space. I'm coming from the place of an ego, of the low self-esteem, which wants me to stay at the same place always, where I have an unhealthy self-esteem, where I am the worst person, where I am the smallest person. So become aware of your low self-esteem so that you can separate it from your own self, because you are not your low self-esteem. Your low self-esteem has an ego of itself, and it tries to take over you. But when you have this self-awareness, you will be able to separate yourself from your low self-esteem and its ego. So this is the first thing that I wanted you to know. Second thing, don't aim to stop comparison completely. So now that we are talking, because we are talking about how you can get out of this habit, or what to do about this tendency of falling into this comparison loop or hole. So the fact that we are aiming to get out of this thing, to work on this thing, do not aim that I want to reach a stage where I'm never comparing myself to other people, because if you do this, you're going to you're going to get disappointed very easily. I mean, like if you decide to do this, yeah, it's like you're paving path for disappointment. And once you feel disappointed, once you get disappointed in your own self, it would be like that you would give up on it completely. You would self-sabotage. You would not even try to, work on this tendency even further. So, I mean, let go of the expectation that I don't want to indulge into comparison at all. That is not truth. Nobody I know is not comparing themselves to anybody else. It happens, especially when we are in the age of social media. So ditch the idea that I have to be at a place where I'm just not comparing myself with anybody else. That is not the aim. Aim is that first is I can reduce the intensity of the comparison that I have about comparing myself to other people. Second is that I'm able to catch myself when I slip into that comparison loop or hole, and I'm able to get myself out of this. All right, I'm able to catch myself and talk myself out of it, not buy into comparison, conclusions, and all of those things. So second is keep your expectations real and achievable. So we are not aiming to never slip into comparison loop. Third is, now when suppose next time you go into or slip into this comparison loop, you find yourself comparing yourself to somebody, right? What to do? How do I deal with comparison? How do I catch myself in that moment and get myself out of it? First is become aware. It's about catching yourself that okay, now I'm comparing myself, which is hard when you do not have this information, when you do not have all this awareness, because then it's like we have accepted that comparison is me. I am comparison is my truth, comparison is my reality. No, now that you have the awareness, you will know that okay, comparison happens to a lot of people. It's a natural thing also, and it's for two people who have a habit of comparison like me. They have it happens to them with much greater intensity, and it affects them equally well, too much. So first is that you need to become aware of this habit of comparison, so that you can catch yourself. You can become more conscious of your habit of comparing yourself to other people. Because when you are aware, when you are aware and when you are conscious of this habit, only then will you be able to catch yourself comparing. Only then you will be able to separate yourself from that voice which compares you. Because अभी तक we believe that voice is me. हम अपने inner voice पे we attach it with our own self. But then becoming conscious, becoming aware, becoming conscious of that inner voice which indulges in comparison, the whole point is that I'm able to separate myself from it. Only then I can deal with it. Only then I can bring in another voice. So it's about using this awareness that you are having right now. It's about using your rational mind, new thoughts, coming from a new space. So first is you have to catch yourself. You have to just understand, like within only that, okay, I am doing that. Now this is me falling into the trap of comparison. I've started comparing myself with this person right now. First is now you have become aware that now you have caught yourself, right, while you are in that loop. Second is you bring in self-understanding. That is, you come from a place of understanding yourself. That is, now we want to get back into our own body. So now that you have caught yourself in being into that comparison, loop or hole. Second thing is, what you do is you bring in another voice, a voice which is led by self-understanding, where you understand yourself, where you acknowledge your story, where you know your past, where you know yourself completely. Because because right now, till now, jo hota tha, what is that? We used to come from a place of judgment and criticism for our own self, and that is why we would indulge in that comparison very wholeheartedly. Because we also believe in all the same things. We also believe that I'm not good enough, and hence the conversation would go on, and we would conclude with a statement which we agree, right? Somewhere we agree because we already have a low self-esteem. Let's see, I'm not good enough, I said. And now when you compare yourself, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You again made yourself believe that I was right, I am not good enough. Because see, right now I compared myself to this person, and it is the conclusion is same. But now, when you will indulge in comparison, you will be able to catch yourself because you have awareness, you are conscious of your own self, of this habit of your own. Second thing, you need to come from a space of self-understanding. That is, you need to come from a space where you have this choice, where you have made this choice that I don't want to compare myself with others in an unhealthy manner. I don't want to go to a conclusion where I feel small in my own self, where I make myself feel inferior. So that willingness need to happen, that choice need to come, which means that you need to come from a space where you believe in yourself, where instead of judgment you choose understanding for your own self. That is, you want to come from a space of compassion, self-love. So instead of self-hatred, which is right now, you want to shift and come from a space of self-understanding, compassion. And because these two things are very mutually exclusive, that is self-hatred, self-love, judgment, understanding, these things cannot coexist. So we need to come from a space of where we understand ourselves, because it's only when we understand ourselves that we will be able to get back into our own body. Because when we compare, it's like we are fleeing, we flee our body, we get out of our body, we reject to understand, we reject to acknowledge our reality, we reject to acknowledge our past, our story, or where do I come from, what is the reality. Because honestly, we all know why we are the way we are. We know everything, we know our story, but we refuse it, we reject it, because we flee our body and we start to focus on the outside world. We start to focus on, okay, what is this person doing, how well is this person doing, why am I not there yet. So no understanding, you're just not focused on your own self, you're not ready to be in your body. So when you come from a place of self understanding, it means that you choose to get back into your own body, that you choose to stay in here. Okay, I can see all these persons, but I also see myself, I also see that where I come from, I also see my reality, I also acknowledge my story, I acknowledge my own self. So that is how you deal with this habit of comparison. It involves two steps. First is becoming aware that, okay, I've caught myself now, that I'm comparing myself with this person. Second, get back into your own body, come from a place of understanding, that I know I'm slipping into comparison, but I choose not to. I choose not to believe in whatever conclusion this comparison loop is going to bring me, because I understand myself. And this is where doing work on your own self, doing inner work, where you build a foundation of self-love, where you build a very firm and strong foundation of self, where you have your own strong opinions about your own self, where you have a very empowering self-image, where you feel proud of your own self, which is nothing but confidence. This is where doing all of this work comes into place. And that is what I help people with specifically. So if this is something that you want to work with, you can book a one-on-one clarity call with me. I do offer a free 60-minute clarity call at present. If you want that, you can DM me coaching. I will send you the link. So yes, this is how you actually get out of this, or work on your habit of comparing yourself to others. So this was it for today's video. And before ending, here's something that I want you to know. And I think this is an opinion of mine, something that I also practice to help my pattern, or to help myself with comparison, with not falling into comparison so easily. So it's about keeping track of how much you're using social media, or becoming aware of that. Okay, what triggers comparison into me a lot? And I think for a lot of us it would be social media, or especially interacting with certain people's posts. It could be your peers, other people in your life. First thing is that accept the reality, accept the truth, become honest with your own self. So you can either not stop using that account of yours. I'm not saying that stop using social media at all, because that would be, maybe you are able to do that for 1 or 2 days out of motivation, but after that you'll again slip back into the old pattern completely. So never aim to go from 0 to 100 in a day. It's like you are paving path for self-sabotage, for disappointing your own self, or giving up on yourself entirely. So instead of doing that, first become aware that, okay, what actually kicks comparison into me a lot, and then create distance, make it hard for yourself to reach there. So if it's one person or 2-3 people whose posts actually make you compare yourself with them a lot, offer yourself some kindness, and make it hard for yourself to find their post easily. Either change the account, switch the account, or you can choose to not have their post come on your feed. So I know this is just an opinion, might sound like an advice, but this is something that I found helpful in me. So instead of wanting to become a person जिसको कोई फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता है, whatever is happening, I don't ever compare myself with anybody else. Become honest with it, that okay, मुझे फर्क पड़ता है. What do you want to do after that? So make efforts for your own self. So this is something that helps me. So I just wanted to give it to you, because if you have a very intense habit of comparing yourself with others, this is something that can help you a lot. Because I think in this age of social media, a lot of comparison happens online. when we see other people's posts. So this is something that can help you to a lot great extent. And when you do this, definitely your comparison, the intensity will, it would get reduced, and you will have enough time to actually work on this comparison thing much consciously. So yes, I'll keep it here in this video, and I'll come today. I'll come tomorrow with another topic, and we will bring or discuss about some other thing in depth.